Hey guys, welcome to DIY Crafts. So today we are going to be working with some pretty exciting materials. If you tend to do crafts at home with your kids, this is definitely not something you would want to do with them for two reasons. One, because it involves fire, and two, because it involves epoxy resin. Which gives off some kind of fumes and is not really the best thing to do with your kids. But this is definitely a really fun, really exciting adult craft if you have a very open area, well ventilated, and it is super rewarding. So what I have with me today is a couple materials. We are going to be making some epoxy resin coasters and some alcohol ink coasters. So let me show you the finished product and then I'll show you guys how to do it. So the first thing that we are going to create is these really cool epoxy resin coasters. This is like a marbleized surface. It's hard as glass. It sounds like glass, feels like glass, nice and smooth and all that jazz. And you can see it's got a really cool marbleized texture to it. And then there's this one, which is just a different color combination. Again, marbleized texture to it, super shiny. Hard as rock. It's literally like, it feels like glass. It almost feels like almost like a marble countertop, but it's not. And then the last one is just an image in that epoxy coating as well. And then finally, I'm going to show you guys how to make this really cool alcohol ink coaster, which I am just using a very bland blank tile to do. So things that you'll need. If you've been kind of following along this whole time, you'll know that we've used these a couple of times. These are mason jar lid rings. So you're going to take a mason jar lid ring, preferably one that is old and outdated and you don't want to use anymore for your food crafts. So this one's got a little rust on the inside. It's looking kind of ugly. So you'll need a couple of these. And then you'll need a tile. Any tile will work. I will tell you that white tile works better because it picks up the colors better, but I'm going to be using white epoxy and white alcohol ink. So it's going to pick up those colors perfectly on this black tile, and I'll show you how that's done. So I have my empty ring, and I have a picture of my cat and my dog. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to lay the ring down on the table, lay the picture down on the table, put the ring down, and I'm just going to take my pencil and then outline on the outside edge of my image to give me a nice ring like this and like this. And so all I'm going to do is cut this out real quick. Bear with me for a moment. And I just printed this out with a regular printer. It's not on photo paper. It is better if it's on photo paper because then the epoxy won't bleed through. So for this one, you can see that I made it kind of see-through. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. If I wanted to put this under light, it would look really, really cool. If you hang it up, actually, if you want to hang it on like a window, the light shines through it looks awesome. If you don't want that effect, just print your images out on photo paper and that'll be a huge help. So once you cut your paper out, you're just going to put it on the inside of that ring. So go ahead and just put it right in there. Make sure it's nice and snug and flat all the way around. So it looks like this. And this is how your image is going to come out. The only thing that's different is you're putting like a clear coat on top of it that's going to make it look like there's glass in here. So again, this image, we're going to take it and it's going to have that sheen to it. And this is going to be your coaster. So it's going to protect all your surfaces, and then you have really cool keepsakes as well, and it costs you next to nothing to do it. So you have your images in your coasters. Take that one out. The next thing you're going to need to set this up is some type of tape. Now for me, I have, this is just transfer tape, but any tape will do. Packing tape works wonders. If you don't have packing tape, what you can do is this mat right here is a silicone mat. Epoxy will not stick to silicone. So if it gets on here, you just peel it off. If you don't have a silicone mat, then tape is your best friend. If you're out of tape and silicone mat, you can use saran wrap, but it might be messy. So your best bet is something sticky or a silicone mat. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to peel off my transfer tape, my sticky stuff. I'm going to go ahead and stick my rings really, really well to that transfer tape. So then it looks like this, okay? Again, if you don't have tape of some sort, but you do have a silicone mat, what you can do is you can use your silicone and a glue gun and basically just glue around this ring and stick it to your silicone mat. Because the silicone mat, once again, epoxy doesn't stick to, and the glue gun will peel off. But if you glue all around here, it'll prevent the epoxy from pouring out of this, which is super helpful. So I'm going to make sure these are really, really snug. You don't want the epoxy to leak out of the edges. So make sure those are nice and snug. And then we're going to get ready to mix epoxy. So we're going to clear the mat here. I don't want any of this stuff in the way because epoxy is kind of messy. We'll put this off to the side for the moment. You do need a lighter, so keep that off to the side as well. You definitely want to wear gloves. Alrighty. If for some reason you do get the epoxy on your skin, a really good way to remove it from your skin is just nail polish remover. Specifically nail polish remover that has acetone in it. Acetone gets rid of the stickiness of epoxy. So you're going to need 2 cups so you can equally measure the epoxy. This is a 1-to-1 ratio, so you need 1 part of the epoxy resin and 1 part of the hardener. If you don't do that perfect 1-to-1 ratio, your epoxy is going to end up sticky and it'll never get to that hard as glass texture. From working with epoxy for many years, if for some reason you do this and it comes out sticky, don't throw it away. It's not the end of the world. Just remix another batch and put another coat on top, and that'll seal the epoxy. All right, so here we go. I got my part A, which is just the epoxy coat. This stuff you can get at Walmart, craft stores, and like Home Depots and Lowe's and stuff like that. So I'm going to take 1 part here. I'm going to go ahead and put in an even amount in here. This is like the super sticky stuff. So we're going to go ahead and let's do quite a bit here. We're going to fill 3 containers. So let's go about halfway point here. Right there. And whatever you do to one, you need to do to the other. So we're going to make sure we have an equal amount of hardener. And then the fun part, you're going to take a stick of some sort that you don't want, that you're going to throw away, that you're not passionate about. Because this is going to end up going in the trash. And you're just going to take your hardener or your part A, part B. It doesn't matter which one you mix into mitt. Either one, because we're going to go back and forth between these 2 containers. Depending on the epoxy you get will depend on how much time you have to work with the epoxy. So this epoxy, I think I have at least 15 minutes to 30 minutes to work with it. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to spin this right here, because I don't want to make too many air bubbles. So I'm going to spin it for a few minutes. I'm going to scrape the sides. And we're just going to mix it to the best of our ability here. Go ahead and mix it up as best as you can. You really want to make sure your part A and your part B, your 2-part epoxy here, mixes nice and good. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a sticky mess. And that's not what we're going for. We're going for a really cool, really exciting, super easy and fun personalized coasters. You could have, if the holidays weren't over and I did this prior, You could have made these as gifts for people. They make really, really good ornaments, especially if you buy like a round mold. So I'm going to mix this up here. Try not to get too many air bubbles in it. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it back in the cup I had the hardener in. That way I make sure I get both equal parts of the hardener and the actual epoxy here. So you just want to make sure it's very, very well mixed. Make sure you're scraping the sides, getting all that good stuff. And now we're going to just mix it real quick in here and we'll be ready to pour. So again, I'm scraping the sides. I'm going to make sure this is really, 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 really well mixed together. That is the number one issue that people that work with epoxy have, is they either don't mix it well enough or they don't mix it for long enough. So you really got to make sure that you mix it nice and well. And you can kind of tell too. So the colors, the two parts are a little bit different. Alrighty here. So I think we're pretty good to go. You ready for this super excitement? So I'm going to I have two pitchers here, and I'm going to go ahead and just pour the epoxy into these two. And then the last one we'll do an alcohol ink color to give you that whole marbleized effect, just so you guys can see how that's done. So I'm going to bring you guys a little bit closer, and I'm going to tilt you guys down so you can see what I am doing here. All right, so here is my images. I'm going to go ahead and just pour this right on in. And I don't want to pour it all the way to the top. I just kind of want to do like a halfway point. So that's probably pretty good if you ask me. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Alrighty. So you'll notice, and I'm not sure if you guys can see this super, super great, but you'll notice if you take a look here, there's a lot of bubbles right now, and that's just not going to work for me. So also take a look. Make sure you're not leaking any resin anywhere. This is where that lighter comes in. And I'm going to take my gloves off so I don't burn my gloves. The lighter is going to help heat up the epoxy just enough where it's going to pop all those surface bubbles, so that you have a nice clear glass-like surface. So you want to go around. This is going to pop all those bubbles. If you have one of those handheld torches, that works a lot better than this. I ran out of gas in mine, so this is just going to have to do. So I'm just literally touching the surface here. And all that's doing is just popping all those bubbles that are in this image. So you want to do this for this one, do it for this one, and then you might need to go back and get the rest of those surface bubbles. So I'm just, again, popping all those surface bubbles. Another way to do this, from what I've been told, I have yet to experiment with it, is alcohol. I think denatured alcohol will help pop these bubbles. You don't want the bubbles. I mean, you might want them if you want kind of like a snow globe look, which is totally cool. But this is just going to look really awesome. It's going to make that image look super clear. So we're going to go around. And my flame is literally just hitting the surface here. It's not a big deal. All right, so this one right here, we are going to make our marbleized look right here in this empty one. So again, just make sure that you're not leaking. If you are leaking, just press down and that'll help. And then put the gloves back on. Tilt you guys back up so you can see my beautiful face. I know, you missed me. All right, so I have a little bit of resin left here. I'm going to go ahead and split this resin into my 2 cups that I started with. So I want maybe just a little bit in here and majority of it in this cup right here. So there's a couple of different ways that you can pigment or color resin. You can use alcohol ink, which is a liquid, or you can use mica powder. You can get these on Amazon. Mica powder is also used, if you listen to me rant on my many random occasions of doing crafts. Mica powder you can use to tint lipstick, chapstick, eyeshadow, all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take, let's do some pretty awesome colors here. I'm going to actually split this up into 3. Let's do 3 colors, see how far we can get with this. We'll just do a very, very little in this cup. So if you were with me when we did the paint pouring, this is going to be very similar to paint pouring. So I have here a yellow alcohol ink. I'm going to shake this up. I'm going to go ahead and put it right in here. A couple dabs will do, not too bad. And then I have this beautiful Baja Blue. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. And then I'm going to do white for my main color. So put the white in here. So once you have the colors in, you're just going to mix it in. And all it's going to do is it's going to tint your resin. So I'm going to tilt you guys back down. And we're going to start pouring into this container right here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add this white here. So much like the paint pour, we're just going to add one layer on top of the other and see what kind of cool colors we can create here. I'm going to go for the blue, mix my colors in real nice. And there it is. And I'm going to add the blue. I'm going to go for right in the center and see what happens. I'm going to do a little on the outside. Do a little over here. And add it all in there. All right, and then I might take my thing and just see if I can pick up some of that white. Blend it in here. What I'm doing is going to the bottom and picking up that white and pushing it towards the center. Seeing if I can kind of get it to go a little bit of everywhere. And what that's doing is that's making a marbleized effect. So resin, which is really fun, is self-leveling. So no matter how much times I pile it up on the top, it's always going to flatten out, which is really awesome. I'm going to go ahead, swirl that around. I mean, that alone looks pretty awesome. But I'm not done yet. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in here. We're going to go ahead and put this yellow, do some over here, some over here. And we're going to scrape this out. And once again, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to kind of blend it together a little. I'm not spinning it to combine the colors too much. I kind of want that marbled look here. So all I'm doing is kind of taking it, scooping from the bottom and dripping it around. That looks pretty awesome. And all this is going to do is it's going to make it look like I have a marble in my little jar here, and it just makes for a really cool looking coaster. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to let that self-level here. I'll put my cup off to the side, and I'm going to show you guys the last quick project of today. So you'll notice once again that these are getting bubbles. My bubbles are coming back to the surface. So you can just take that lighter with the gloves off. My gloves are a little bit too big. Just take that lighter and go ahead and pop those surface bubbles. And again, all that's going to do is it's going to help you get that glass effect. The longer you let it sit, the bubbles are going to rise to the surface. And what's going to happen is you're not going to have any bubbles on the top here. Okay, it's going to look very glass-like. So you want to do that same thing to your marbleized one. Just pop all those surface bubbles. Okay, so while that's kind of making all the bubbles pop, I'm going to take my black coaster. I'm going to put the gloves back on. This is like the glove show over here. I'm going to take a bunch of alcohol ink. So I'm going to take that same blue. I'll put a dot here, and here, and here, here. I'll take some of that yellow. And this is the super fun part, so stand back. Alright, what other colors do I got? I got some greens, I got some pinks, I got some purples. So you're not seeing any colors now, but hold on. It's going to get super fun. I'm going to kind of make a little bit more room here because I'm going to need to sit back. Alright, put this forward here so you guys can see it. I'm going to do, I think I have a purple and a pink and a gold. So I'm going to do purple. And then I think this is gold. It's orange. We want the gold. Where's the gold? Bear with me. This is gold. Okay, so rich gold. Alright, so once you have all your alcohol ink kind of poured, because of the colors I'm using, you really can't see what color alcohol I have because it's a gold, it's a dark color. So I'm going to take that white. I'm going to go ahead and put the white in the center and watch what happens. So my alcohol ink is blending with my white to make these really iridescent, super pretty colors. So I'm going to go ahead and let those blend a little. And this is just, I mean, really have fun with it. You might want to add a little bit more white. You might want to add a little less. You might want to go back and add a little bit more color. The gold looks spectacular. So, I think we got a little spot here. There we go. All right. If you guys were here, I would tell you all to stand back for what's about to happen. But give me just a second. This seems to not want to work very well. Just want to add a little bit more white. That's a lot of white. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we'll do this one last color. All right. So once you have your alcohol ink laid out, now what? You have all this wet surface and you're like, I don't know what to do from here. So in order for alcohol ink to set, you're going to take that lighter, like I said before, and you're just going to light it on fire. So you guys ready to watch how crazy this is? Woo-hoo-hoo! That's nice. Nice and toasty. And you'll see that my colors are starting to set because now they're burning into the tile. And as the alcohol fuels the fire, it dries out all the ink on the tile. So if you like what you have, totally leave it the way it is. If you want a little more pizzazz, feel free to go back and add a little bit more color here. Because the alcohol is still a little bit wet, so it still allows you to kind of play around with this a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit more gold here. And then go ahead, once again, take that fire, and then it's going to light that whole thing on fire, and it's going to kind of make this look really awesome. And just make sure you got it all, and that's pretty much it. So again, you can really have a great time with this. I mean, the more you add to it, the kind of cooler it looks, in my personal opinion. Alcohol ink does stain your hands, so keep that in mind. It's very much like food coloring. It's gonna stain your hands. I don't know why this one's not working all of a sudden. Okay, and same thing here. You're just gonna light it on fire. Turn my tile a little. And that's it. So the only thing that you need to do when you're all done with this is just seal it. So I have my paintbrush here. I have a little bit of resin left right here. And I'm just going to take it and I'm going to go over it nice and lightly. And that's going to kind of blend the colors in a little bit. So the more resin you have, the better it's going to be. Just steal some from here. And you're just going to put the resin on here. I'm actually going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to take some resin from my pitcher. I'm going to go ahead and just pour that on here. And then all I'm going to do is just spread this around. And as I spread the resin around, it's actually spreading some of that alcohol ink around as well. If you don't want the alcohol ink to spread, you can just wait until the alcohol ink totally dries. And because resin is self-leveling, all of these brush lines that you may or may not be able to see on camera are going to disappear. So you can do the sides too if you want. That way at the end you don't have to paint them. And that is pretty much it. Just going to paint the sides. I'm running out a little, so I'm going to go on top again. Paint the sides. And there we go. So, there it is. I have just taught you guys how to make some really cool alcohol ink coasters and some really cool resin coasters using old school mason jar lids. So, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this program, and I will see you all next week.